Hey.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy Monday.
Hey. Happy Motivational Monday, happy Mindful Monday, and happy Monday Rundown. So, if this is the first time that you're with us, we just want to say welcome. We love on Monday Rundowns that we're able to talk about all sorts of topics, current events, things like that. And we go to content creators, thought leaders to hear their ideas about the question of the day. Today is no different. We have a question that we're really excited to get into. So, what's today's question?
Yeah, today's definitely going to be a good one. All right, so today's question, guys, is
Can being with a narcissist be healthy?
I know someone's like,
Hmm.
what? All right, so I know, oh, did we? I don't know if I copied this over. All right, so before we jump into it, and guys, immediately throw your comments into, throw your
Yeah.
thoughts into the comments below. But I don't think I didn't move it from the last room we did, Jay. I
Oh,
wanted to put out, and if anybody knows the actual definition for narcissism or narcissist, you guys could throw that in the comments as well. But what are your initial thoughts, Jay?
um, yeah, I mean, I think people normally just think like, okay, when you're with a narcissist, you're with somebody who does not care about anyone else but themselves. And so that can be really unhealthy for having a relationship because we should be thinking of ourselves and the other person, I think is
Mm,
the main agenda. And then of course there's been a lot of people who are like, I've been hurt by a narcissist, because being in a relationship with a narcissist can be really painful, because I think what people talk about is how a lot of times narcissists tend to um, gaslight you. So you like
yeah,
make you feel like your feelings, your thoughts, or even what you thought happened
right.
um,
Didn't
isn't
actually happen.
exactly what happened, in order to make it whatever they want it to be. And that includes whatever emotions, feelings, or even like a series of events, right?
Mm,
So that can be really painful if you're dealing with somebody who constantly does that. Um, and so I think I can understand why people get really upset when they think about being with a narcissist, because there's just been so many people who've been hurt by the gaslighting.
aspect of it,
Um,
or the tendency, yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure there's a ton of other things that people would say, like, oh, well, I'm upset about this too, and there's this other aspect. But to me, I feel like that's probably like the number one thing that people pick up on. Can it be healthy though? Um, I mean, you and I have done enough. Well, at least I know I did a lot.
I
I've done a
won't
lot
say
of
enough.
research on shame-based thinking, and how when you have something that happens in your childhood that gives you a message that you are unlovable, you're
Mm,
unworthy, you're not good enough, all of those things, then when it becomes so bad, when you think you're such a bad person that actually, in order to protect yourself, you can, in a very extreme way, you can start to only think of yourself in order to
a
like,
certain way, yeah.
yeah, the message to protect yourself, or almost like your inner child. Um, so I don't know. This is hard, right? Like someone who is a narcissist, I don't know if it can be the healthiest thing. Are
See,
there some aspects of narcissism that I think like we all probably need? Probably, like you do have to survive,
well,
but
do you know what's so here's the funny thing, and I love the fact that your answer I think kind of touches on different aspects of it, because you identify what it is and maybe the part of it that many people find themselves not liking, the gaslighting, and there are some obviously some other things that fall under it. And for me, as someone who's been told they are like this, and be mindful who you let label you, right?
mm,
But when I was told that, it made me, when I recognized it was something that was viewed as a negative, and for many people that's the experience they have. I don't The behaviors that I was being told were narcissistic, I didn't realize, for me, however, at the time, were things that I had done to protect myself, to your point, because of trauma that had happened in my life. So I became very self interested, because it's interesting that I think I look at the world as you allow things from the outside to hurt you, and if you aren't mindful of who you are, you'll allow those you can allow people's thoughts of you when they're not in the best space, and
Mm.
take their criticism and literally think of that as a core characteristic of who you really are. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I started to have to be mindful of whose label or whose negative experience of me I allowed to become my own self-belief of who I was to affect my own self-worth. So I definitely feel like there's some aspects, to your point, of the narcissistic behavior that didn't come from an inherently negative place, was actually born out of a trauma based or a need to provide for myself or to create comfort for myself, and how obviously as you get older those same behaviors aren't ideal in a relationship. Where I think when we think of like love or the idea of what it is to be with someone else, it's the idea of sacrificing for someone else. And if you think about what a narcissist is defined by, that's the last thing that they would want to do, is to sacrifice something of themselves for someone else. So I think it can be. I think if you I think if you understand the reasons behind the behaviors you have, I think it can be considered healthy if, when you're communicating that now to your partner, there's an understanding of maybe why you behave the way you do. So I become very self interested when this happens. So it's not maybe you, it's my own trauma that's creating this behavior in me. You know what I mean? But when
Mhm.
when you're unaware of your behaviors, or unaware of maybe the reasons behind your behaviors, and even able to how to articulate that to someone else, other people may tend to take that personally, and again do the thing I'm saying, born like that created the narcissistic behavior, which is I've been hurt and I'm protecting myself by behaving this way. Like many of us talk about baggage from other relationships that we carry on with. And I think of things like that. It's like you can carry over a behavior where your new partner had no problem with the behavior that you have. But an
Mm.
old partner, you've changed for you've changed for the person you're leaving to go on to someone else. It's fascinating because many of us probably could relate to doing things like that.
Mm.
Right?
Mhm. 'Cause with each relationship you're learning, so I could see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I
So
put
I
up
know
the
there's a
definition of
difference. I
narcissism
thought, yeah, I
or
saw that.
narcissistic
Thank you.
personality disorder. For those who are curious, this is the actual definition, and I think some of the definition actually got cut off.
Yeah, I know it doesn't tend. We may have to put it in like a second window.
Yeah, attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand and or care about others. So I'll put that as the part
The
2
rest
of
of
the
it, yeah.
definition.
And like with many things, guys, and again, the self-labeling thing, I don't know if many of us tend to self-diagnose ourselves and things like that. We have to be careful of a label that you put on. Like you may have, to me, it's like those commercials where they tell you a drug and then they list a slew of symptoms that to me is
Yeah.
wide range and wide covering to try and bait you into believing that you're what you have is they can provide an answer for that. You may exhibit some behaviors which may fall under what we consider narcissism, but you may not be a narcissist.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I
No,
know it
100.
wasn't just us today. Hold on, I'm gonna.
Yes, we've got some information from the School of Life. I'm really excited to bring them back on the stage with us and hear what they have to say about narcissism. So here we go.
Absolutely. Get this stuff off the brand. Get the banner out of the way first.
Narcissism is one of the most misunderstood terms of our time. We are so aware of the bad narcissist, one whose overweening pride leaves them no room for empathy or kindness, that we are at risk of missing the central role that narcissism should play in the development of any healthy human. None of us is able to thrive without a chance to deeply like ourselves. As psychotherapy recognizes, we universally require a dose of what is termed healthy narcissism, a sense of our lovability and rightful place in the world, bequeathed to us via the approbation of kindly and enthusiastic caregivers in our early years. In our haste to condemn selfishness and pride, we miss out on the primordial importance of self-esteem and confidence generated by love. If we analyze his situation from a clinical point of view, the mythological Narcissus didn't get fixated on his reflection to the exclusion of others because he loved himself too much. A good deal more poignantly, he did so because some form of early deprivation must have bred in him a need to manically keep checking in on himself in a doomed search for a value he clearly couldn't believe in. Without adequate approval, we develop what is known as a narcissistic wound, a feeling of profound inadequacy in relation to elements like our looks, our status, or our intelligence. As wounded people, we will then keep being drawn, despite ourselves, to scenarios that scratch at our perceived flaws. We'll be alive to every criticism about us. We'll pick partners who can't reassure us, and will anticipate, and thereby often precipitate, the end of everything positive or kind. We hear too much about a character who grows evil and selfish because they think too well of themselves. The reality is far more complex and sad. Everyone needs to be adored and will suffer immensely if they are not. We should strive to become more conscious of our narcissistic wounds and try to salve them through intense doses of the very same sort of love whose original absence created them. As we need to keep reminding ourselves, no one ever grew ill from too much love.
That's so funny. That was exactly the point I was trying to make. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're going to do a better job than I was. Guys, throw it in the comments. Let us and that. I love these videos.
Yeah, they're really.
There's so much. Yeah, they get so much across, and it's funny that that story about Narcissist.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but I heard that in The Alchemist. It was actually the first time that I had
Yeah.
actually heard the story of him, the whole idea, but I'd never heard it the way he broke it down about the fact that there must have been some trauma in his younger years, which brought him to this need to keep looking at himself in the lake.
Yeah.
That he
I love that.
ultimately drowned in.
Oh, well, I didn't know that part, but
Oh yeah. So it's funny. The whole idea of that is he's looking at himself constantly. He got so close to looking at himself. He falls in this lake. He never knew how to swim, so on, dies. And again, that's when now this idea of this behavior being considered a negative. You're so involved with yourself, you allow it to kill you. You know what I mean?
So interesting. Well, to that end, I do really enjoy the way that they talk about it, and they make it clear that because you didn't get the love and attention when you were little or when you were younger, it has someone like obsessively look at the need to check in on themselves. And so like it's one thing, we all do it. You take a picture, a group picture, and when you look at the group picture, what do you do first? You look at yourself.
Yeah,
Everyone does it. And I know that we do this, and I try sometimes to not do it, to try and look at somebody else first before I look at myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I do it like without even thinking. Like I have to like force myself to do it the other way to like.
You know what's so good? That's such a great example. You know how many people would look at that as such a normal thing to do? Like the fact that you take pictures and you get rid of the bad ones, the ones you don't want people to see. And it's clear now that that would fall under this narcissistic behavior thing, but that's perfectly acceptable for us to do. No one would probably think give a second thought to, oh, I took 4 pictures. Clearly, I'm going to get rid of the ones or share the ones I don't like. I'm going to put the one that makes me look that I think I look the best in forward. We've obviously taken pictures where someone's like, oh, I don't look good in this one. Can we take this over? And for everyone else could be, oh, but I look great. They want us all to do it over because they don't look good.
So this is why I bring it up, because it is such a normal thing. And so to that end, some narcissism is normal, which he describes. But then I think when it gets like when someone becomes a narcissist, is that it's like all the time.
Yeah, you can't not let yourself look bad.
Yeah.
And again, and to the really extreme examples, what are the things you're willing to do, including harming others potentially?
Right.
Continue the facade maybe of this idea of you're perfect or willing, and that's where, again, that's why I'm mindful again of the label, because the person who called me a narcissist, I would never in my mind think to do anything that would harm someone else for my own self-preservation. But this person may have felt threatened by my thought, oh, I'm not, and that's why I use the word threatened, but they may have not physically, but emotionally felt, oh, he creates harm in me. at I'm thought less of than his own needs.
Mm.
And that therefore I fall under now this whole, oh, he's a narcissist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they may have been justified because their perception, I'm not here to question that or not. For them, I may be exactly what that is to them. And
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to don't fight that fight, because that person's perception is valid for them. They experience however they felt
Mm-hmm.
whatever went on. So it's important just to even, to think about it from that side. Just anybody out there who may be being called these things, that person may be right. And it's for us now to go find healthy ways, like they said in the video, to deal with the behaviors that you are exhibiting.
Yeah.
Because it took me to realize, oh, I do those things. Oh, that's negative. Oh, I'm not realizing that, because for me it was, oh, I'm just thinking of myself. Exactly how it's being defined,
Right.
So I
Well,
do think,
this
to
was
the
helpful.
question, which let me throw the question back up. Sorry, guys. Um, you know, can being with a narcissist be healthy? I do think so. I'm gonna lean with I do think so.
I'm realizing, sorry, this is going to bother me because there's a
No.
typo in the question.
Oh.
It's supposed to be cysts. I don't know where the IC came from to make it narcissistic. But
Oh.
I'm sure everybody understands what we mean. We are not perfect here on this show.
We're not narcissists. I'll change it.
But you say yes, I say, I think if you have the personality disorder, it may be really challenging. I don't know if it's necessarily the healthiest thing. I think we all have narcissistic tendencies that are healthy to keep us, it's in survival mode, like to help us survive. But I don't think it's in a relationship. I don't know if it's like the healthiest thing for someone to have narcissistic personality disorder. Let's say it that way.
See, okay. So then, if the question goes to that extreme, then no.
Yeah.
I don't. Because I still feel like to say to each his own, but the word healthy is maybe the part that, are you gonna fix it? Thanks. The healthy, putting the word healthy in there. Potentially, I'm gonna say from how it's described, no, it's probably not the healthiest thing, because you aren't thinking of yourself. You aren't being narcissistic enough with yourself. If you're in a long-term relationship with a narcissist.
Yeah.
But I'm just going off it would seem like they would need. Their needs may obviously not consider yours, and I don't know how healthy that is, to not consider your needs, to not have your needs considered.
Right.
So I guess I'll change my answer.
Well, we've definitely unpacked this. I feel like it's been
feels
made
like
to be super simple, and I don't think it's as simple as people make it.
Yeah,
I think understanding where the narcissism comes from is super important. So I'm glad we've at least unpacked that.
Actually, you know what? That's what I would like to leave this with. I would say, as long as we're not quick to label and then discard someone based on this, and just maybe to what you just said, let's understand maybe where some of the behaviors that you're considering narcissistic come from, and if for you that's a relationship that you want to, to work on and learn and grow in, and maybe it's just not for you, and so if not, move on. But we can leave it there.
Say that.
Seriously.
All right, guys, this has been another great Monday and another great Monday rundown with you all. Please subscribe, like, and share this video if you thought it was really good with your friends, and so that way you can all start commenting together. But until next Monday, as always, remember, you deserve the good life. Say that.
Say that. We'll see you guys. Have a good one.